in algebra, trinomials are algebraic expression which looks like this: a number times x square plus another number times x plus another number. This kind of expression, ax squared plus bx plus c, we call them trinomials. If you look at the example, I am trying to factor the first example, example 3, I am trying to factor the trinomial is x to the x squared plus 3x minus 18. That basically means a is 1, b is 3 and c is minus 18. Okay, so we want to factor the trinomials. In order to factor the trinomials, the first thing, by the way, there are bunch of tricks on factoring trinomials. If you Google around, you will find so many different tricks. I'll not be going to talk about tricks. I'm going to show you a process of doing it, not just the trick of reaching to the answer. So the process is this. What we have to do is we have to find two quantities. One I'll be calling the product, another I'll be calling the sum. Product is the product means it is a times c. So this a multiplies with c, whatever the number we will get by multiplying a and c, that is what I am calling product, and I am writing p for it. And the sum is b. The number that multiplies x is the sum. So for this example, product for me is 1, x square is multiplied by 1 and c is negative 18. So 1 times negative 18, which is negative 18. Negative 18 is the product and the sum is the number that multiplies x, which is 3. So for this problem, product is negative 18 and the sum is 3. These are the two quantities we're going to need in order to factor a trinomial. We need the sum, we need the product. Now with product, this product is negative 18 now. This is the product. What we do with this product is we think of all different factoring of negative 18 so that the sum of the factor equals 3. So let us think about factoring negative 18 and getting 3 as the sum of the factors. Okay, well, one way to factor negative 18 is what? Negative 18 can be written as negative 18 times 1. One way to factor negative 18 is write negative 18 as negative 18 times 1. However, if I add negative 18 and 1, negative 18 plus 1 is negative 17. I am not interested in getting negative 17 because my sum should be 3. I want to get a 3 as the sum. So negative 18 and 1 does not work. Let's think of another factoring. There are bunch of possible factoring of negative 18. You might want to make a list, okay? I'll just try it. Let's see, I will do negative 9 times 2. Negative 18 can be written as negative 9 times 2. Well, if I add negative 9 and 2, will I get a positive 3? Answer is no. Negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. So I'm not interested in this factoring also. I'm not interested in this factoring also. This does not work. This does not work. Let's think of another way of factoring. Let's say negative 6 times 3. This is also negative 18. If I add negative 6 and 3, will I get a positive 3? Looks like negative 6, 3, something like it might be okay. However, if we add negative 6 with 3, we get negative 3. We don't want negative 3, we want the positive 3. We want the positive 3. This is the quantity we want as the sum. Well, we are very close. I can say 6 times negative 3 is also negative 18. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. 6 plus negative 3 is positive 3. So 6 and negative 3 are the two factors of negative 18 whose sum is equal to 3. So now 6 and negative 3 are what I need. So 6 and negative 3 are the two factors of 18 that I'm going to use. How do I use them now? So in order to use them, I'll go here and work. In order to use them, we will write the first quantity x square as it is. Now 3x, positive 3x can be written as positive 6x, negative 3x. See, 6x minus 3x. These two numbers are used here. Positive 6x, negative 3x is positive 3x, and the last quantity minus 18 remains the same. Basically, we want to break this 3x into two parts so that their sum is 3. So 6 and negative 3 gives us the sum to be equal to 3. Now we use the technique of factoring by grouping. I make a group of the first two. This is one group, this is another group, and take the largest common factor in the first two, which is x and x plus 6, and take a largest common factor in the second two. We take a 3 out, and from 3x I'm taking negative 3x, I'm taking negative 3 out. That means I have x left over. From negative 18 I'm taking negative 3 out, so positive 6 is left over. That means, now see, this is one factor, this is another, this is one quantity, this is another quantity. The first quantity is x times x plus 6. The next quantity is negative 3 times x plus 6. You can immediately see x plus 6 is the common factor in the two. So x plus 6 is factored out, and x minus 3. If I factor x plus 6 out, from the first quantity x is left, from the second quantity 3 is left. So I factor the given trinomial. By the way, it is always good to check, is this answer correct or not? Did I do correct factoring or not? In order to check it, you will need to multiply. I'll not be working on the multiplication. Let us quickly check if it is correct. X times x gives me x square. Sounds okay. 6 times negative 3 gives me negative 18. Sounds good. 6 times x is positive 6x, negative 3x, positive 6x, minus 3x is positive 3x. Excellent. Good. So we checked also. Check, good. Okay. Let's look at one more example of factoring trinomial. So next example is 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. 8x squared minus 10x minus 3. As before, the first thing we need to do is identify the product and the sum. Product in this case is 8 times negative 3. 8 times negative 3. The product of the number that multiplies x square and the number without x is what I'm calling the product, a times c. So 8 times negative 3 is negative 24, and the sum should be negative 10. Sum is here. This is here. We have to be very careful with the sign, negative 10x, so negative 10 should be the sum. Now, there are bunch of different ways negative 24 can be factored. One of the factor, for example, is 24 and negative 1. If we factor negative 24 as 24 and negative 1, 24 plus negative 1 is 23. I am not interested in that because I need a sum of negative 10. Think of another factoring of negative 24, so that the sum is negative 10. Negative 24, 6 times 4. 6 times negative 4. 6 and negative 4 does not give me negative 10. What else? 12 times 2. 12 times 2 is 24. So negative 24 is negative 12, positive 2. Negative 12, positive 2 gives me, on adding, gives me negative 10. So I will break this 24 into negative 12 and positive 2 so that their sum will be equal to negative 10. So as soon as I find these two numbers, negative 2 and 12, whose product is negative 24 and sum is negative 10, I will go back to my question and I will rearrange it. 8x square. See, the first and last quantity remains the same. You don't have to do anything with them. Minus 3 remains minus 3, 8x square remains 8x square. In the middle term, what you have to do is write down negative 12x plus 2x. Negative 12x plus 2x. Negative 12 plus 2. That gives us negative 10. Now let us do factoring by grouping again. I'll make a group of first two and the group of last two. The greatest common factor of 8 and 12 is 4. The greatest common factor of x square and x is x. The greatest common factor of the first group is taken out. The leftover is what? Out of 8, 4 is taken, so 2 is left. Out of x square, x is taken, x is left. 2x is left in the first quantity, first term of the first quantity, minus remains minus. Out of 12, 4 is taken, so 3 is left. Out of x, x is taken, nothing is left. Plus. Look at the next group. There is no any common factor. There is no common factor between 2 and 3. Here is x, here is no x, so there is no variable common part also. So no common factor means we always write 1. 1 is the common factor and 2x minus 3. No common factor means there is 1. 1 is always a common factor. So now if you look at these two quantities, 2x minus 3 is in the first quantity, 2x minus 3 is there in the second quantity as well. So I can factor 2x minus 3 out and write down the rest, which is 4x from the first and 1 from the second. You can still check it. Check means once the work is done, it is always better to check. I am leaving you guys to do the checking. If you multiply these two quantities, you should get the initial question back. So in order to factor trinomial, you need to find the product of coefficient of x square and the constant term. That is what we call product, and you will need to find this, you will need to observe the coefficient of x, which is we call sum. Factor the product so that sum of the two factors equals the sum, and just break the quantity that contains x according to the factor for the product we already have. So this is the process of factoring. As I have already mentioned, there are bunch of tricks people use to factor. I'm not going to talk about any of the trick. This is the process. If we follow the process, we don't need to remember the trick. So this is basically factoring trinomials.